Greetings students, I am Harinee, the Assistant Professor of Psychology, Department of Psychology from the Standard Fireworks Rajratnam College for Women, Sivagasi. In this session, we are going to understand and learn about the brain. So today we are going to discuss about and understand the key parts of the brain. Let us jump into the class now. Okay. Now let us start from the introduction to the brain. Okay. Understanding the key parts of the brain, it's something which is very remarkable, and your brain is a complex organ that controls thought, your memory, emotion, touch, motor skills, vision, breathing, and these are all the basic psychological processes that is understood by the brain. Okay, your brain and the spinal cord both combine together to form the central nervous system or the CNS. Okay, so how do we understand the development of the brain? Okay, here your brain is not the development, your brain is not evolutionary formed first. Okay, so your spinal cord evolves first and then your brain evolves. So your development of the brain starts from the spinal cord, and then a spinal cord grows upwards, and then your brain is being formed. Your parts of the brain are of three: the midbrain, hindbrain and the forebrain. The midbrain and the hindbrain are both combined to form the brain stem. They are called as the brain stem. Okay, so the parts of the brain stem. Your brain stem is located at the base of the brain, that is the location. The brain stem is at the base of the brain, and it is a very small part, but it controls the maximum of the movements. It controls your breathing, your heart rate and the blood pressure, and it is a kind of your vital center of the brain. Okay, your brain stem has the parts of hindbrain and the midbrain. Okay. Coming to the midbrain, your midbrain has, it is the middle part of the brain, which is a small part located above the pons. So let us see about the pons. And your main functions of the midbrain are your tectum and your tegmentum. These are your main parts of the midbrain, that consists of your tectum and the tegmentum. Tectum is nothing but the ceiling or the roof that forms projections called as colliculus. Okay, so colliculus or means small hill. Okay, that includes your superior colliculus and your inferior colliculus. Your superior colliculus is responsible for receiving visual information, and your inferior colliculus is responsible for receiving your auditory information. Coming to the tegmentum, it is the floor part of the midbrain, which contains a substance called substantia nigra. Substantia nigra is a black colored area which secretes the neurotransmitter dopamine, which is involved in movement. Okay, what if the substantia nigra degenerates? That will lead to the Parkinson's disease. The Parkinson's disease is nothing but the disorder with the movement, inability to movement. Okay, that is your Parkinson's disease. That your tectum and the tegmentum form the part of the midbrain. Coming to the hindbrain, your hindbrain is the lower part of the brain, consisting of your medulla, pons and the cerebellum. In this we will cover the pons and the medulla. Your medulla is a small, your soft part is known as your medulla, which elongates along the spinal cord, and thus it is called as medulla oblongata. Okay, that is the lower part of the brain and the uppermost part of the spinal cord. It has the most vital center. Your heartbeat, your blood pressure and the breathing are all controlled by the medulla. Your origin of your cranial nerves of 9, 10 and 11, 12. These cranial nerves originate from the medulla. Now your pons. Your pons acts as a bridge connecting the midbrain and the hindbrain. Your cranial nerves, your 5, 6, 7, 8. These cranial nerves originate from the pons. Here your cerebellum, which is located behind the pons and the medulla, being a very small part, Yes, it is a very small part, but it controls most of the activities which we do in our daily life. And your cerebellum is known as the little brain. It controls all the body balancing skills, your new motor skills and all, your balancing ability, your coordination, your muscle coordination, all is controlled by your cerebellum. Okay, that is your little brain or the small brain. Your cerebellum has more neurons than the comparatively, and the cerebellum has a special kind of neuron called a Purkinje cell or a Purkinje neuron. The cortex, coming to the cortex which is covering the cerebellum is known as the cerebellar cortex. What is the main function of cerebellum? Yes, the coordination of voluntary movements, your body balance. We are walking straight, that is because we are perfectly balanced. Okay, your body balance. We are driving a cycle, we are driving a bicycle or a motor vehicle straightly without moving, jerking. That is all because of your cerebellum acting properly. And your storage of the learned motor skills. Your learned motor skills are your procedural memory, the things which we do step by step in a daily basis. That is all your learned motor skills, and these are all stored in the cerebellum. Yes, coming to the main and the major part is your cerebrum. Your forebrain is called as the cerebrum. The cerebrum is also referred as the thinking part of the brain. Your learned verbal memory, your non-verbal memory is all stored in your cerebrum, that is your frontal lobe, your forebrain or the cerebrum. Okay, that includes your sensory perception, motor control, language, processing, your problem solving abilities, your thinking ability. That's all coming under your forebrain or your cerebrum. Your cerebrum has subcortical hemispheres also. They are also the internal structures of cerebrum. That includes your limbic system, thalamus, hypothalamus, that will be dealt later. Okay, your cerebrum is the large brain. Your cerebellum is known as your small brain, and the cerebrum is known as the large brain. Your cerebellum also has a outer covering called cerebellar cortex. Now the cerebrum also has a outer covering called the cerebral cortex here. Yes, your cerebral cortex has foldings in that. When you look at the brain, it has foldings. Okay, so that foldings are known as your fissures and your sulcus. They are all convulsions. Okay, your fissures and sulcus are nothing but your furrows, grooves, or your depression in the brain. Your fissure is nothing but the deep depression, and the sulcus is the shallow depression. In the brain, we have a fissure, your great longitudinal fissure, which divides two cerebral hemispheres. Your left and the right cerebral hemispheres are divided by the great longitudinal fissure. Your sulcus, the central sulcus, it is the sulcus that is the border between the frontal and the parietal lobe. Your cerebrum can be divided into 4 lobes. Okay, that is your parietal, frontal, parietal, temporal, and the occipital lobe. The sulcus that divides the frontal and the parietal lobe is the central sulcus. You have something called your corpus callosum. Here the corpus callosum is nothing but connects the left brain and the right brain. That is your left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere cannot function individually. So it has to work together to coordinate your body. So your corpus callosum works as a sheath-shaped structure, white matter that connects the left cerebral hemisphere and the right cerebral hemisphere. That's all for today's session, girls. We'll see you in the next session.